Welcome back, Attack. I'm Skyland Shore, and today we're going to show you our first impressions of Romero's Aftermath, a new game from the team that actually started War Z. Yeah. Okay, so before you click out, yes, War Z wasn't as good as it could have been. They even changed the name to Infection Survival Stories. Yes, there was a lot of controversy with the game. I even bought into it early. I played the game, and I'll admit, there were actually some aspects to the game that were actually very, very good, and absolutely could even compete with H1Z1 and DayZ now. However, of course, the rest of the game was terabad, and now we have Aftermath. Now, let me just say something. This is not from the same publisher. Okay? So any sort of pay-to-win mechanics that were in the game previously and a lot of the previous limitations of the game are not there. Aftermath actually has a fresh new look. It's going to be using a upgraded engine, yes, the similar engine, so some of the textures are a little bit rough, I'll admit, but overall it's running much better, much more fantastically. That's absolutely a focus of the developers as well. But some things that I want to quickly note on this game: is it better than War Z? Is it better? Does it have more potential? Yes, absolutely. Does it compete with H1Z1? More than competes with H1Z1, and is it a good, solid game overall right now? From what I played, I had a little guide from the developers, and yes, I think it's a really good game. I'm actually behind it, and I want to actually play with you guys. I want to share this game, so I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, 2 thumbs up. I think it's a cool game from what I've seen so far. A little bit of bias because I did have a walkthrough with the developers, so I got to see all the good stuffs, but I think that's really important. They wanted to show me the cosmetics, they wanted to show me the weapons in the game, the different areas, and all the different features. So let's talk about some of those features, okay? So similar to H1Z1, you can build bases. You can build them wherever you want. They look really nice, I have to say. H1Z1's bases are really messy, and maybe you're kind of into that aesthetic. It kind of makes sense, but in this game, it seems a little bit neater. But then again, that just might have been like the developers, neatness. But overall, I do like that their base building actually includes some larger structures instead of just lots of really small things clunked together. So yeah, it looks really nice. The cosmetics and the things that you can purchase in-game actually remind me of CSGO, because there's a lot of RNG chance boxes that you can find out in the world. You pay for keys to open these things, and you get some really, really awesome cosmetics. They even have like weapons and shirts and like cosmetic hats that literally glow neon. So there's definitely going to be a lot of people wanting those glowy items, and they look really freaking cool. But yeah, that's how they make their money. Basically, cosmetics, that's it. And you have all these other features in the game, just like, kind of like War Z. Yeah, you do have items that actually spawn in the world, okay? So you can see these items. So if you walk by a car, you can look in the car and see if there's an item. You don't have to do some sort of like fake searching like an H1Z1. No, you see the item, you pick up the item. They do also have crafting, and I think the crafting is done ingeniously. It's simple, but at the same time, it adds a lot of layers of depth to the gameplay. So you can pick up water bottles, and if you don't want to use a water bottle, if you have too many water bottles, whatever, you can break it down into plastics. Same thing with metals. You can break that down into different kind of metal bits, and then you can use that to craft different items. You do have to find recipes, but in my adventures, it seemed like we found recipes quite often. And one thing that I really hated about War Z, and to an extent H1Z1 and DayZ, is that previously in this genre, it was really hard to find materials, right? Like, you would search for hours and hours, and then all of a sudden you would find a stash of all sorts of stuff. And that's not really fun. It's much more fun to have consistent gameplay, game feel. So there's more like a spread outedness of items. So you can find items all over the place, and even if it's not the item you're looking for, you can still break it down and craft things. And one thing that I really liked about the game is that you can switch servers whenever you want. However, it's really smart that they made it that whenever you switch servers, you do spawn at a random location, so you can't farm individual locations just by switching servers. That was a big complaint. And overall, I just want to say, overall, completely, it seems like these developers have learned a lot of lessons from other games, and of course the previous game, Infection Survival Stories, and now that they have the freeness, that they can actually do whatever they want, the creativity that they want, and make the game that was truly envisioned instead of the War Z, it looks good. It looks good, it's playing well, and I'm kind of glad that it's coming out later, because if it came out before, I guess they wouldn't have learned those lessons. So, yeah, there's a lot of really cool things that I like about the game. They made it seemingly pretty hard to actually hack the game, which is also a big complaint of these titles. But overall, yeah, I just want to say, it seems like they learned a lot of lessons from a lot of these previous games, and this looks to be one of the most solid of the genre, if not the most solid. Graphically, debatable, absolutely, but mechanically, I think it's solid. So you do have a variety of weapons, of gear, different levels of backpack, all that good stuff, all the usual things that you'd like. One thing that I want to mention is that weapons are direct upgrades, okay? So the rarer the weapon is, the more likely, it's probably better. It's also probably rarer to find the ammo, but you do have different types of ammunition that you can interchange with some different weapons, and then they have a lot of math going into that, so you can figure out which weapons are the best, their range and everything. And what's really cool about this game is that they make it abundantly clear what weapons do exactly what. You can see the exact stats of all the items in your inventory. They make it very clear how to utilize all these items. So overall, this genre is pretty hard to get into. It's very complicated. It takes a lot of research, especially that's how I felt coming into H1Z1. But in this game, it's very easy. Even without the dialogue from the developers, I was instantly just picking up on things. I was just ready to go kill some zombies. And that's what I want to bring up next, is that they also made it very easy for new players to sort of get right into the thick of the gameplay, okay? A lot of the games, or these games in the genre, it starts off with the player just scavenging for hours and hours and hours, maybe sometimes not even seeing other players, and maybe sometimes just instantly getting, player killed. Overall, the starter experience can be quite uncomfortable. However, in this game, among many other systems that help new players and also help drive veteran players to play consistently more, we have a system which is similar to Quest, or open world questing, or kind of like the Hearts and the open world events of like Guild Wars 2 or APB Reloaded. Those games do this. Basically, we have these events around the world that you can participate in, okay? And you have to participate as a group. Well, you don't have to. Some have like different varying levels of difficulty, so it's good to bring a group, especially in higher levels. However, I suppose you could do it solo if you're a freaking hero or something. But there are these sort of towns, and you can liberate these towns, okay? And you can actually gain bonuses from liberating, by killing the zombies in the area. You liberate it, and then it kind of becomes a little bit of a safe area, but of course, that draws in players, especially because whenever you finally liberate a town, it creates another event, and this is kind of fun. H1Z1 allows you to do this event, an airdrop, through a cash shop. However, in this title, it's done through liberating, so you don't pay for this. It just happens whenever you liberate a town, and then you are sort of rewarded. It's still a challenge. You still don't get the items. You still have to fight over it. The airdrop hits, and the rewards are based on the size of the town and the difficulty of the liberation. So, if it's a huge liberation, you and a guild completed that big city, it was like basically a raid level challenge, and then you have this huge airdrop coming in. Well, everyone on the server is probably going to be rushing towards you, so you still got another fight ahead of you. But still, for new players and for veteran players, it allows you to have a more consistent gameplay, a game feel, because you're never just wandering around. I mean, you can do that. You can totally choose to do that, especially if you build your base somewhere out in like a very distant area. You can choose to kind of just like be a nomad around that very distant area, not around any major cities. You want to be a loner and you want to scavenge around like that. You can do that. That's definitely a possibility because because of the crafting, because of the base building. Or if you want to be a player killer and you want to be around a lot of like action, you can actually build your base inside of a city. And oh yeah, let me just mention that the base building and its location is, even though you can swap servers, it's always going to stay on the one server that you built it on. So that's also pretty importante. But I just want to say that there's a lot of different playstyles that are made available because of the systems in place in this game. And they sound all simple, but when they're put all together, it seems like the game is going to have the most well-balanced game feel of any in this genre. I know the genre is niche and you go for a very particular experience, but I like how Aftermath, it does hit that sweet spot. It's not as toxic as other games, and at the same time, yes, it has some casual systems in place, but those systems are fun. Yeah, they are genuinely interesting, okay? So you do have a character that levels up recipes, right? You don't lose those recipes on dying or switching servers, you keep them. So you do have like sort of like a higher level character. It doesn't mean you're any stronger or you do more damage. There is no stats in the game. The developers definitely didn't want stats, but they wanted the player to be able to jump back into the game. If they spent all that time on the game and finding these very rare recipes or these rare cosmetics, you're not going to drop any of that. So your gameplay is going to be a lot more consistent all in all for new players, for veteran players, and that's a really great thing for a genre that is generally noted as being quite toxic for everyone. So yeah, Aftermath, it's a good game. It absolutely is. You don't have to worry about another cheap attempt at the genre, okay? Even though it's the same developers, they have been unchained. They have been released from their holds of their previous publisher, and now they're going ham on this game. You can absolutely see the dedication, and already so early in development, it's absolutely competing with the competition. Thanks for watching. I'm Skyline Shore with Attack Gaming. Like and subscribe so you can stay notified of all these new indie multiplayer games. We'll keep you updated as long as you keep coming. Be excited for the next video, and we'll see you there. Welcome back, Attack. Today, we're going to be talking about the top 10 free-to-play MMOs for this year, for 2015, and I think across all the genres for free-to-plays, we've seen so much innovation in MOBAs, in MMOs, in like card games. We've seen so many new things this past year, and hopefully, maybe, probably so, 2015 is going to be just as exciting. This is our